Jewish Meditation Series, Lesson 6, The Natural Affinity of Meditation to Shabbat. Some folks cannot find the space inside their hectic days to meditate. They may even question whether it really is the best use of their short time on this planet. To sit still and do nothing when they could be learning, creating, cleaning, fixing, nurturing, working, praying, or exercising is hard to justify. They bring the Talmud to support their stance. This world to do the work, to build and fix and clean, and the next world, the cosmic Shabbos, to rest, kick back, and enjoy our rewards. Of course, there are ways to address this concern and, with equal authority, to conclude otherwise. We've explored some of them in previous lessons. But right now, I'm going to make space for this objection, validate its concerns, and find a way to work with it on its terms. An array of factors gets balanced when making decisions. People assign different weights to each of these elements based on their personal priorities. For example, take time and money. When one person compares their value, his scale tips this way. He's got more money than time. But when the other guy adds things up, his scale tips the opposite way. He's low on cash with time to spare. This is because of the different weights they've assigned to the factors they've considered. It might be that one is right and one is wrong, but it might also be that each person really did choose the best possible option for his or her life path. So I'm going to assume that for some people, daily meditation might really be a misuse of their time. But still, even for them, there is Shabbos. The Torah commands us, 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath, and for that entire day you shall refrain from work. For in 6 days Hashem made heaven and earth, and he rested on the 7th day. Therefore Hashem blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. The Torah is clear. On Shabbat, our assignment shifts from doing to being. On Shabbat, we cease from exerting mastery over the world. And if we do refrain from work, the promise is that Shabbat will bring menucha, a term that means repose, tranquility, and inner peace. That is its point and its proof. This rhythm of work and rest, 6 days work and 1 day rest, is built into the very structure of reality from its earliest beginning. The Torah informs us that Hashem metaphorically worked 6 days and rested on the 7th. That becomes our prototype, despite the fact that God's work and rest are so totally different from our own that it is almost idolatrous to compare them. But the Torah informs us that despite this huge disparity, our rest on Shabbat does resemble, in some mysterious way, the Creator's rest. And since, on the spiritual planes, things are close when similar and distant when different, our Shabbos rest creates a special kind of closeness, the kind that comes from sharing stillness. In observing Shabbat, we align ourselves with this rhythm of creation in a way that both relieves fatigue and soothes the soul. Yet there is a wealth of spiritual resource available on Shabbat that still remains untapped. Our break from work creates an atmosphere of rest that permeates both body and soul. But if we also meditate, we harness the principle of resonance to bring the peace of Shabbos into the deepest reaches of our soul. Stillness resonates with stillness. In meditation, we touch the inwardness of Shabbat, and Shabbat touches the inwardness of us. And in truth, the spiritual updraft of Shabbat, the peace that reigns on the inner planes, can open us to a whole different level of meditative experience. The basic practice of meditation is to choose a focus and return back to it when our mind wanders. But there are states of meditation which develop gradually over the years and which deepen in ways that resonate particularly with Shabbat. Let's take our meditation from the Code of Jewish Law as a prototype. We hold that image or its syllables in our mind's eye or ear and repeat it over and over and over again throughout the day or throughout the time we've designated for this exercise. This practice, called meditation, quiets the mind. Our breath slows, our body softens, and a stillness takes root. Its benefits are numerous, as discussed. After some period of practice, perhaps months or years, the quieting deepens even more as the space between each recitation expands. And in those spaces, stillness resounds, for there are not even the ripples produced by the focus to disturb its peace. These gaps between each assertion of focus are special. They are not the distractions from focus when our mind wanders to other things, as discussed in lessons 3 to 5. Instead, they are rare moments where our mind, having been stilled through the focus, maintains its quiet state without distracting thoughts, even in the pause between our assertions of focus. In this way, the mind enjoys a moment of pure silence, shtikah in Hebrew. And this shtikah is the closest we can get to Hashem's Shabbat. For Hashem creates through words and rests through silence. Hashem spoke creation into existence with 10 statements of let there be. And then, on the 7th day, he, she, it rested from this creative effort and ceased from speech, or rather, its heavenly equivalent. And that is what we do in meditation. We cease from activity, and especially in these gaps, we cease from speech, and even from thought, which is simply a more subtle form of speech. And since likeness produces closeness, we connect to Hashem most especially on Shabbat, when we sit still, quiet our thoughts, and find a moment to meditate. The Kamarna Rebbe employs a metaphor from the Zohar to express this beautiful idea. The bride, says he, bedecks herself in jewels, gold, gowns, and ornaments that are pleasing to her beloved and attract him to her. Yet when the time of union arrives, she removes all that, and they meet self to self, core to core. And so it goes for us, says the Kamarna Rebbe. We bedeck ourselves in mitzvot and good deeds that find grace in the eyes of our beloved. The Baal Shem Tov actually calls our mitzvot takshite kala, adornments of the bride. These beautifications draw down grace and opportunities for direct encounter, called yichudim. Yet when the time of yichud arrives, says the Kamarna Rebbe, we too, like the bride, leave our holy doings behind and encounter the Holy One, being to being, stillness to stillness, silence to silence. And that's what happens when we touch the place of shtikah inside meditation. In summary, on Shabbat, spheres align, channels open, and a deep stillness fills the world, but you can only feel it when you make space for it, by stilling your own life. And so the Torah instructs us to refrain from 39 activities that exert mastery over the world. This inactivity attunes us to the inner, hidden stillness of the day. It is possible, and even advised, to align ourselves even further by stilling our thoughts as well as our deeds. This we do through meditation. It quiets the mind and brings Shabbos into the deeper layers of soul. Shabbat is a time of yichud between the cosmic groom and bride, Israel and the Holy One. And since like resonates with like, the more still we become, the more consummate our union on Shabbat. Because the universe quiets on Shabbat, it supports our meditative effort, and we are able to reach deeper states of awareness than are available during the week.